Guys, welcome back to the Lifted podcast. I have Morgan here. Morgan, I stalked her on Instagram as I do most of my guests. But she actually stuck out to me. I saw you on the Supplement World page and I don't know why. I think it was just your look and just I heard you talking and she seems so genuine. I was just like, I got to get you on the podcast and whatever we talk about, what we talk about. But welcome to the Lifted podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
happy to have you. So I'm going to jump right in. And you had mentioned when we talked before that you have cystic fibrosis. Is how I
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
You
right.
didn't butcher it, so you're
Like,
already off to a
fuck.
good start. Yeah.
So can you explain, like, for any of our listeners that just literally have zero idea what this could be, including myself, can
Yeah.
you give like a really dumbed down
Totally.
explanation?
Yeah, for sure. So cystic fibrosis is a genetic lung disease. I was born with it. So basically, how that happens is both your parents have to be a carrier of the CF gene. So it's basically a defective gene that's in your body. When I was diagnosed, it was very, very rare. My parents didn't know that they were carriers, and it also wasn't as common back then. So basically, when they had me, after my two sisters, everyone knew that something was kind of off. And then they didn't really figure anything out at the first little bit of me being born, but I was constantly sick, and they're like, okay, something's wrong. They ended up testing me, and sure enough, like they had no idea what CF was. So when both your parents are carriers of the gene, there's a 1 in 4 chance your child will have CF, have all the effects of it. 2 in 4 chance that the child will be a carrier. They won't have any effects of it at all. And then 1 in 4 chance that they won't have CF or be a carrier. And I have 3 siblings. So,
Wow.
yeah, so I was the 1 in 4 that got it. But there's no one else in my family that has it. One of my siblings, either my brother or my one sister, they are carriers of it, but they don't have any effects of it whatsoever. So,
So I mean, obviously, like they probably didn't test that when like your parents
no,
had
they had
babies and
no
whatever.
idea. Like, no one in my family knew what it was. My parents had no clue that they were carriers of it whatsoever. So,
Wow. And your siblings don't have it.
no, I'm the only one.
And you were diagnosed when you were like you got it when you were born,
Yeah,
or
like
you
I
were
was
just
born
born
with
with
it.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
but they had no idea what was wrong with me till
Wow.
I got
So it took a
diagnosed.
while to figure out.
Yeah.
So how does it affect like your life essentially? Like
Um,
anything from like relationships, work, just all of it.
yeah. So growing up, I was heavily bullied. Like I think I've mentioned it before. And just because you're different and you stick out, no matter what it is, people pinpoint that, and just because you're different, they want to pick on it. So growing up with it was really difficult. I would say way more difficult than it is now for me. So relationship wise, obviously you kind of drop that bomb on people, especially when I used to be quite sick. A lot of people don't handle that very well. So they're like, well, I can't handle this. Like, this is too much for me.
So what do you mean by like when you used to be quite sick?
So, the last 3 years, I've been on a new gene therapy medication called Trikafta. So basically, what this medication does is 3 pills that I have to take every single day, and it reverses the effects of my illness, which is crazy because when I was diagnosed growing up, the doctors told my parents I probably wouldn't make it past my 10th birthday. And then or once I became a teenager, it was like, okay, you're not going to make it through your 20s. So that's been drilled in my brain the last how many years that I've had it up until 2021. There was a medication that had been around for a couple of years in the States. A lot of my friends had it. I seen it vastly like improving all of their lives. It was just crazy to see my friends that were so sick turn into completely like, normal, healthy people. And then I was kind of bitter waiting for that phone call, didn't know if I was gonna stay healthy enough to like live through to be on it. And then I got the phone call for it in October of 2021, and I've been on it ever since. And it has completely changed my life.
Really?
Yeah, like the first 24 hours of being on that medication, I didn't realize how quickly it was going to affect me. It was, I think, a few hours after I took my first dose. The buildup of fluid that you get with having CF in your organs and your lungs I think the first 24 hours I was just constantly non-stop coughing, and all of this crazy fluid and just all this buildup of old fluid that was in my lungs was all like clearing.
Whoa.
And it was crazy because I remember in the first 24 hours, I've never in my life known what it has felt to breathe properly until that moment. And it was wild. Like,
Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah.
So it hits your lungs in a sense of like it creates fluid in your lungs.
Yeah,
Is
so
what it
the
does.
defective gene that's in your body, it causes a huge buildup of a bunch of different fluid. It's gonna sound gross, but it's called mucus in your lungs and your digestive system. Some people it affects a little bit differently. Some people their digestive system isn't as involved, whereas for me it's everything. So lungs, digestive system, pancreas, all of it.
Whoa.
Yeah,
And these pills you've been on for 3 years, and you're
almost three
like,
years. Yeah,
cool. And
yeah,
it's like complete. You've completely because you've also competed.
yep.
So okay, we're gonna get into that, but first I want to ask like
hmm
just a little bit more about like let's talk about relationships in school and stuff
hmm
for a minute. How did having it like affect that? Like I
I
know you said you were bullied, but
yeah.
yeah.
I think just growing up with it being bullied, it changed my perspective on a lot of things, and I also missed a lot of school because of it. So growing up as a kid, like in middle school, high school, I rarely ever had time for friends and stuff like that. And the friends that I did have, they were awesome. Very, very small group. Like, kind of growing up, everyone's like really cliquey, whatever. I was that person that kind of floated around. Like I didn't really have like beef with anyone, but I also like a lot of people did talk behind my back. They're like, "Oh my god, that's the girl with CF," or like you people would talk, right? Or they make up rumors. Like there's a few times I had gone to the hospital for weeks on end, and I'd come back and they're like, "Oh my god, like we thought you were dead," like stuff like that. And growing up as a kid, I'm like, that was my normal, and I didn't know any better. And also growing up, I've had to do a lot of breathing treatments and stuff. Like every single day, that was my life. Probably like two hours out of every single day that I had to be doing breathing treatments in order to get all that fluid up and breathe properly. Or I'd have to take a bunch of different medications. Like every single time I eat, I have to take pancreatic enzymes. Otherwise, I don't digest my food. So growing up, as you're getting older, it's kind of embarrassing at school. I have to take the medication. Everyone's like, "What is that?" And everyone kind of hounds you because they're nosy, and they're kids and they don't know. And then, yeah, like mentally, I didn't realize how much it actually affected me until I got older.
Yeah,
So,
and like high school and stuff is probably
oh,
when
high
like
school was awful. And that was kind of where my health like went more downhill because I was so stubborn. I'm like, I just want to be a normal fucking kid. Like no one else does this. Why do I have to do it? So that kind of turned into like rebellious teenage phase where I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm not going to do my breathing treatments. I want to be a normal kid. Life's too short. I'm not going to make it to my 20s anyways. I want to be a kid and be normal.
yeah.
So then obviously health goes downhill because of that. And then trying to get myself out of that cycle didn't fully happen until I say kind of like grade 12, but more so a year after high school. Because I'm like, well, I'm an adult now. Like, I need to get my shit together. Like, what am I doing?
You're like stop rebelling,
Yeah,
like take your fucking medication.
yeah, yeah. The only thing I was fully good with, and like, this is gonna sound awful for anyone that knows a patient with CF or like my family, if you're watching this, like, I'm sorry, but like, it's true. I was good with my enzymes, breathing treatments. I was like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is stupid. I don't want to waste my life doing this.
But that I mean honestly like even if your family is watching this,
Yeah,
like I it's so hard because when you're a teenager and you're in a high school and shit, like
yeah.
you do anything to like fit in with the crowd.
And it's hard enough being a teenager, let alone one that is so different. And
Yeah.
like explaining that to people, or like, I know we want to get in relationships, like trying to explain that while I'm dating, or like reasons why I can't enjoy things like sex because I couldn't breathe half the time. So like, I lost my virginity late because I was so scared. Whereas all my friends are like teens and they're like losing theirs, and I'm like, I can't even breathe like going up the stairs. Like, how's that gonna work?
Fuck, I
Yeah,
didn't even
dude.
think about that.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, that's so awful. And
Yeah.
it's like, and
So I never enjoyed anything like that until I got Trikafta. Even just waking up in the morning, like fully rested, I'm like, I've never done that. Because I'd be constantly, like, if I'm really sick or dealing with lung infections, I'd be in the middle of the night coughing like crazy. So like I was very like fatigued and just like all my energy from my lungs, since my lung function was so low, doing the simplest task like brushing my teeth or brushing my hair, I was exhausted 24/7.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And so how does it affect also like your work life? Or how did it, I guess, before?
I didn't get my first job until I was 18. It was a part-time job. So I was a slide attendant at the Sylvan Lake water slides. That wasn't too bad for me, but also when I was 18, I was still kind of, I'm like, oh, I'm an adult now. I can drink and party. So like that job was just for the summer and then a couple shifts a week, but I would be gassed. But then I'm too stubborn. I'm like, I need money. Like I'm an adult. What am I doing? And I didn't want to go back to school. Like I didn't want to go to college because I'm like, what's the point of spending all this money on college when I don't have a future? So I would work part time. I couldn't work full time up until like almost 3 years ago. Like once I got Trikafta, that's the first time in my life I was able to work full time.
Whoa. So, okay,
Yeah.
can we go back for a second?
hmm
Because you were told when you wouldn't live till 10, and then you
Yeah.
were also told that you wouldn't live till your 20s.
It was very like well known because like being online, you have friends with CF, and so it's very well known. It's like, oh, you're a teen with CF. Well, like you're probably not gonna make it to your 20s. Like it was very rare when I was a teenager that like your life expectancy was like maybe mid 20s if you were lucky. And growing up, I had quite a few friends with CF that I lost, unfortunately. So like growing up, I'm like, fuck, I'm like, I could die tomorrow because of this. I'm not gonna make it to my 20s. I'm not going back to school. Like I want to live my life and travel and party.
You're like, let me go. Yeah, so
Yeah,
how did you, because if I think about that, if I was like in high school or something
yeah,
and people were telling me that I wasn't going to live till my 20s,
yeah.
like I'd probably have a mental breakdown. I would be not like, how, what did you, like, were you okay? Like, how did you kind of
I
deal with that?
honestly, it never really affected me in that way. Like growing up, I'm like, I'm gonna do whatever I want when I want. If this is what my life is supposed to be like, I'm not gonna waste it. I'm not just gonna sit around and feel sorry for myself.
Wow.
Like I want to do shit. Like no matter how far this takes me or like how far, like how long I'm gonna live, I'm like I want to do everything I can.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's actually cool.
yeah.
Because I mean, you can take it two ways. Like, you can either take it and be like, okay, well, this sucks. Like,
hmm
why me, whatever, which I'm sure
Yeah.
you've had moments like
Oh
that.
yeah.
But it's so much better to be the other way and be like,
Yeah.
I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want when I
Yeah.
want to do. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and then I see people with CF that I meet online, and like seeing how they were, their entire identity revolved around it, and I was never that person. I'm like, yeah, this is a huge part of my life, but also to me, it's such a small part. I'm like, I'm a fucking human being. I hate the pity. I hate all that shit. So that's why sometimes I was embarrassed to tell people I had it. Like it's
Mm.
not like it was a big secret, but it wasn't the first thing I'd say when I introduced myself. Whereas other people I knew, it's like, oh, I have CF. Like this is my whole life. Like that was their personality. So when Trikafta came to play, it was funny because I kind of had like a life altering like experience with it, and I had this oh shit moment. Like fuck, I'm not actually dying anymore. I'm like, what am I gonna do with my life? So keep in mind, I was 24 when I got this medication, hadn't gone back to school, no savings whatsoever, like nothing to my name. And I'm like, fuck, I'm actually not gonna die. What am I doing? And whereas before, it's like, I don't give a shit. I'm not gonna live long. If I can spend all my money, just party, do everything. But there were some people when they got Trikafta, they had a complete identity crisis. Because they're like, oh my god, I don't have CF anymore. Who am I? Whereas that wasn't my experience. Mine was just oh shit, what am I gonna do now?
You're like, shit, I
Like,
didn't
fuck, I
save
thought I
for
was gonna
this.
die. What am I doing? Like, yeah. So it was crazy to see, like, how it affected different people.
Yeah.
And I talked about it with, like, my CF team that I have at the Foothills Hospital. And it was kind of a weird transition for a lot of people. And, like, the doctors, obviously, confidentiality, they didn't tell me who it was. But they would tell me how they're struggling with certain patients because they're like, I don't have CF, who am I? Because they would ask me questions and make sure I'm like okay, and I'm like, yeah, like I'm good. I have no money. Like, what am I doing? Like, I have no job. I'm 24. I'm like, what the fuck do I do?
Yeah.
So I think I got the better end of the stick, but
But like still, I mean, like it's just like I've heard that people that go into sports and say they're
mhm,
really big into sports, as soon as they
yeah,
quit, they're like, fuck, what do I do now? Because it's
Yeah.
like a huge
Yeah.
life change that, I mean, that's probably the same thing. It's like you
Yeah.
got these pills and you're like, well, fuck, I didn't
God
go to
damn
school.
it. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
fine. What do I
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
and then, so now you've done a show,
Yeah.
bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So, okay, so what does the community think of you doing that? And like, what do you think of that? Like, how did you kind of,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, I started working on 2016
okay.
when I was 19. Very, very sick. Like extremely sick. So this is gonna go back a little bit, but I got really interested in bodybuilding. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Keep in mind, at the time, I was 5'6", like 80 pounds. So it was a very far-fetched goal for me at the time, obviously, and I was very sick at the time. So I was like, what, almost 8 years ago now? But I thought the gym was awesome, and I started going for the first few months, and then I was getting crazy progress. Like I weighed the heaviest I'd ever been. I think I was like 100. I got up to 110 pounds. Felt amazing. Like the gym just made my lungs feel so much better. That was my new form of physiotherapy because I told you like I didn't like doing breathing treatments, and I was like, oh, I fell in love with the gym. It made me feel 10 times better. So I was always going, and then kind of fast forward a little bit, I ended up going on a big trip with my grandma. So she's never left Canada ever. We're going on a 30-day trip together. Me and my nana. So think of like this sweet old lady with me. I'm 19. We're gonna travel the world together. We went on a trip from Beijing to Australia.
Wow.
That was kind of my grad gift because I graduated, and she's like, "Oh, I want to go on a vacation." I've never traveled, and I was like, "Oh, okay, traveling with my grandma." I'm like, it's kind of weird, but I was like, "Yeah, sure, like let's go." And my nana, like, she's a very like small town like farm girl, and so I was like, "Okay, let's go." My entire family, my dad did not want us to go.
Well, her first trip leaving Canada is to Beijing to
Yeah,
Australia. What
we
the
went on a
fuck?
cruise from Beijing to Australia. So it was a really really cool experience, and it's something she still talks about to this day. Um, but basically, what happened on that trip? So because my immune system is absolutely used to be absolute garbage, it's more common for me to pick up on things like the flu, influenza, all that. So we were on that trip. I ended up catching influenza A, which is deadly to normal healthy people. So I didn't realize I got it. And I'm also so stubborn. I have a high pain tolerance. I know when I'm sick. I know when I get a lung infection, like a flare up, whatever. And I'm really fucking stubborn. And I'm like, I'm fine. I'll be like coughing my guts out, and people are like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, like I'm good. I'm good. Sounds like I'm dying, but like I'm okay," because that was normal. So we go on this trip. Halfway through, I'm not feeling very well. Blah blah blah. And we make it through the whole trip. I climb the Great Wall of China. Like this was at the very beginning of me like starting to feel sick because I think that's kind of between like China to Beijing. I think that's where I got it because of the timeline, and I ended up getting really really sick. But I'm like, I'm not missing out on this trip. Like I need to power through. I'm like, I need to take pictures for my grandma. I need to just do this. So towards the end of the trip, I ended up getting on oxygen on the plane and made it home whenever. Stayed at my dad's that night. My nana's 45 minutes away. All my family's from Red Deer. At this time, everyone was gone. So my dad's on a flight like 6 hours up north for work. My oldest sister's in Saskatchewan. My other sister, I think she was a couple hours away as well. And my brother was 16 at the time, and he was in the room next to me. I woke up the next morning in crazy pain. I felt off. I'm like, there's something wrong. I think I need to go to the hospital. I think I have a lung infection. Called my nana. By the time she got there, my right lung collapsed. Half my heart failed. And I was dying. Like, actually dying. So by the time she got there, she called the ambulance. I'm freaking out because I'm like, okay, this is not normal. I've never felt this before. And the paramedics showed up. By that time, it was like if they need to get me out of there. So my body went into shock. Um, Last thing I remember is like my little brother at the top of the stairs, just like he like looked like he's seen a ghost. That was like my last memory before they flew me from Red Deer to Calgary by Stars, and they put me in a 12-day induced coma. So this is like my craziest story. I do not air this on social media. I've like talked about it bits and pieces, but not to this extent. So basically, what happened is they called all my family members that were all gone, by the way, nowhere near Calgary. And they said, if you want to say your goodbyes, you guys need to come tonight, like now. So I got induced coma at the Peter Lougheed. I was in a coma for 12 days, and I shouldn't have made it through the first night. So, anyways, fast forward to that, I made it through the coma. Super weird waking up from that. It was crazy because I thought it was November 12th, the day that I like got home, and them trying to explain to me while I'm on full life support, like I'm intubated, I can't move. Like I'm on 12 different machines keeping me alive, and my dad trying to explain to me that it's been 12 days. I was like panicking.
Yeah.
So I had to go through so much rehab, so much um like I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to talk, eat, like everything.
Wow.
And healing from that was crazy, and it was really really tough. But then again, I'm really stubborn. So I'm like I ended up in the ICU twice. The second time it was like they came down there and they're like, "Okay, we have palliative care to come in. They want to talk to you." And I straight up told the doctors, I was like, "You guys can fuck off."
Oh
Cuz
my
that's
God.
end of life care. And I'm like, I'm not dying again because this was like about a month after I got out of the ICU. I was still in hospital, and they transferred me to the foothills because that's where my CF team was. That's where my whole care team is, doctors, dietitian, physiotherapist, all of it. I'm like, I need to go see them. So when I ended up there, I ended up getting sick again. I got pneumonia, and then they brought me to the ICU. They're like, we need to talk. We need to figure out what your next steps are. And I was like, I'm fucking going home. I was like, I'm not dying. And I'm so stubborn, and my family's like, no, no, I think you should stay. And I'm like, no. So I, I was in the ICU. I think it was like a week or so after, like I got started getting better. Because I'm like, fuck you guys, I'm not dying. Like I did not just go through all that, wake up, and now you're telling me I'm dying again. So I got a little bit healthier. Was finally able to eat solid food. My voice finally came back because I was intubated for way too long, so it damaged my vocal cords. Hence why my voice is more deep and raspy. It used to be high pitched.
Whoa.
So once I got up, we were in a normal unit. A few weeks went by. I think it was the beginning of January of 2017. It had been 63 days. And I told the doctors, I was like, I want to go home. I was like, I need to go back to the gym. I need to eat chicken and rice. I need to eat my diet. I was thriving 2 months before this vacation. I know what I need to do in order to get healthy. So that was a fight. A lot of my family members did not want me to leave that hospital because I was on 24/7 oxygen, also, keep in mind. Like, my whole body was still healing. Like, I had 2 chest tubes, I had 5 tubes in my neck, like, keeping me alive. And I was like, I want to go home. I was like, I need to go to the gym. That was like my tunnel vision. I'm like, the only way for me to get better is to go home. So, like, we kind of talked about it. They're like, okay, like, we're not sure. Like, you need to understand that you're going home against doctor's orders. So if something happens to you when you're at home, it was basically like kind of like a figure it out.
Wow.
So I was able to come back to the hospital, but it's like I had to keep in mind that I was like leaving against their decision because they didn't support it whatsoever. But at the end of the day, I'm an adult, I can do whatever the hell I want. So for about a week before I went home, my family would meal prep me my food. So I'm like, I loved chicken breast, I love rice, I love zucchini. So my taste buds were messed up. So everything tasted completely different because I hadn't had solid food in like over a month and a half. So once I was able to eat and everything, I like started feeling better, and I'm like, okay, like I just want to go home. So once I got home, they're like, the only way you can go home is if you're on 24/7 oxygen. So I was on 24/7 oxygen for I honestly can't remember. I think it was a few weeks, like 2 to 3 weeks when I got home. I was staying with my sister. So she was like my care person. Like she was my caregiver taking care of me, my oldest sister. And so in order for me to go back to the gym, like I was 50 pounds. I lost half my body weight. So my thighs were like as big as my calves. Like everything was non existent. I looked like a walking skeleton. So I had to learn how to do stairs again. So that was kind of like my first thing. I'd practice walking up and down my sister's stairs, and then just gaining my strength, eating more, resting. And then I remember the day I was finally ready to go back to the gym. I wanted to hit legs. I leg pressed 10 pounds and it felt like 200. And then from then, I'm like, I still had my oxygen. I was still going to the gym with oxygen. Then I got to a point where like my lungs were getting more used to it. And I stopped wearing the oxygen as much. I'd only wear it at night. And I'd bring it as like an emergency, like just in case thing. And then I got to a point where I didn't need it anymore. And then, yeah. And then I just waited out. Like I had ups and downs after that for quite a while. Because my lungs were so scarred, I was getting what's called hemoptysis. So because my lungs were so scarred, I went through so much. During those episodes, I would cough up blood. So that was like my new thing. So I'd be in and out of hospital because of that, and I'd have a lot of those flare-ups. That basically happened up until I got Trikafta. And I got Trikafta, and I have not had an episode like that ever since.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then got Trikafta. I started working at a supplement store, met more bodybuilders, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then I started going to Gold's Gym in 2022. And then, yeah, I met Travis Smith and got me a job at Supplement World. And then here I am. And he is my coach. So I know it's a long story, but that's basically how I started bodybuilding.
No, that was probably one of the best stories ever. I'm like so into that. That's so crazy though.
Yeah.
Like just, and I also watched, I'll put it in the description, but I watched your TikTok you showed me last time.
Yeah.
Where it's like your whole journey. And I showed
Yeah.
James too. That is like just seeing, because like I can picture you at like 80 pounds now because I did see that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you put the 50 pounds in there, but
No.
like going from that to like where you are now and also competing, like that is just like
My body dysmorphia is through the roof. It's all over the place.
really,
Because I feel like I've lived so many different lives as like a different sized person. So I'm like, some days I feel super skinny, or some days like when I was on a certain medication in COVID, I blew up. So I looked like very large. Like I was very chubby. Like my face was a circle. So I'm like, my body dysmorphia is like all over because of all of it, which is crazy. And I'm like, bodybuilders already have body dysmorphia. Mine's like the next level.
yours
of
is
it.
like times 10 body
Yeah.
dysmorphia. Like,
Yeah, it is.
could be anywhere today.
Yeah. So when I say things like, oh, I feel skinnier, I feel like too big, like not in a good way. My friends are like, oh, like shut up, like you're fine. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm like, I've been through so many different bodies. Like this is just, it's so weird for me to explain to people.
Yeah. And in a
So-
short amount of time, like what did you say that was like 2016?
That was 2016, and yeah,
So like, yeah, from 2016 to it's only 2024, that's 8 years.
Yeah,
Like that amount of time, like that's a lot.
yeah,
That's a lot.
yeah.
So what would you say, like, like, because people have perceptions on, I feel like just just anything. What would people's perceptions be around CF and like physical fitness?
It's hit and miss. Like I, over the years, have inspired a lot of people with CF. One of my lifestyle clients, she also actually has CF, and she like went off on a tangent. She's like, I've just like seen how healthy you've been. Like I want you to help me. Like I want to be healthy. I want to take care of myself. So I've inspired people like that. But then there's the people who don't have CF and they call to you, and they're just like, I don't know if you should be doing that. Like just like seems like a lot. Like why are you putting yourself through this? Funny enough, I was talking about this with Travis today. There was someone that was kind of spewing some hate with like a few different people, and he happened to pick on me. And I was a week out, and he commented on one of my posts and said, "You're nowhere near contest shape." So like, and then he went off DMing me, like spamming me messages. Keep in mind, this guy has no idea what CF is. He was comparing his health condition to mine, basically saying how dumb it was for me to be competing. He's like, I don't understand why you're being so stupid about this, and just like going off. I don't know this man. Keep in mind, I've never met him. Just some random person online going off telling me what I should and shouldn't do because I have CF. Grown man in his 40s, I'm sure, or 50s. So there's like people like that, but then I get like the good side, like people that either have CF or don't, that it motivates them. So it's like, it's all over the place.
Just back and forth.
I feel like it's more positive than negative for me. But yeah, like sometimes those negative ones, I'm just like, Like, go touch grass. Like, why are you so pressed about someone else's life?
You're like, you don't even
So,
have it. So like,
yeah.
why?
Oh, dude, it's so bad. Especially like I'm all for like being sympathetic and stuff, but I've never been a person that likes pity. I hate it. Because it's like, well, that's why, like, when I grew up, I'm like telling people I have CF, they just look at you like you just told them you like are dying.
Like they
And people
just
get
feel
weird.
bad for
So
you.
weird. I'm like, I'm a human.
Is that why you like kind of avoided telling, or I guess you didn't say that you avoided telling people, but you wanted to avoid telling people?
It's a first interaction. I don't like they being the first thing I tell people. Not only because of that, but because I want them to get to know me as a person. It's not like, oh, I'm more gonna have CF, and then they look at you, they're just like, oh, like, I'm so sorry. Like, are you okay? Like,
And you're
it's like,
like,
fuck off. Yes,
I'm
I'm good.
fine.
Like, I'm a person. My favorite color is blue. Like, can we talk about something else?
Yeah.
But like, I'm pretty open about it. Like, if someone asks me a question about it, I'm very upfront.
Yeah.
I just like that pity look, can't stand it.
So annoying.
Yeah.
Well, and like, yeah, you don't want to live your life around it also. Like you just said,
No,
like
I
you're
did
like,
for, oh my God, like 24 years I did. And then now it's like, it's not as common for me to talk about it because it doesn't affect me as much as it used to. It still does. Like I have like ever since I started Trikafta, like I think I've been sick maybe twice. But like before, like my whole world revolved around it.
yeah,
So now I'm like it's not as common for me to talk about it.
yeah,
But I don't feel the need to.
yeah.
So I'm like I'm healthy. I'm more a normal person now than I used to be. But yeah, I don't know.
Just people bringing it up and stuff. And people
Yeah.
with like that just don't really know anything about it. It's like, first of all, you're an adult and you have your own life.
Yeah.
And second, you don't know anything about what I'm doing. And also, like, just watching your stuff. Like, I knew you had it from, you just did a Q&A like a couple weeks ago
Yeah.
before we had met.
Yeah.
And I kind of read about it, but I think you said CF, and I had no idea what the fuck CF was. I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. Like,
Cystic
I'm not too...
fibrosis is kind of a mouthful, so
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. It's like you don't want to type that out every time, but for a new follower, I was just kind of like, oh, she has something, like whatever. I didn't even
Yeah.
look into it. I was just like, I don't really,
Yeah.
whatever, you
Yeah.
know? And then, yeah, so just seeing that and also seeing like just you and your posts and just like, I feel like your stuff is so positive and generally like inspiring. So people looking at that like would be inspired. So
Yeah.
I think it's cool, and I hate that people are like hating on it. I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
that's such bullshit, but people hate on fucking everything, so it's fine.
Yeah. Like some people are just so unhappy. I just remind myself that. I'm like, it's not me. I don't know them. They're complete strangers.
So yeah.
Like I'm sorry that you're that upset that my post triggered you or I talk about something like bodybuilding and that upsets you. Like there's
Chill.
there's way more like there's way better things to be worrying about
Yeah.
than some random person's life online.
Yeah, right?
So yeah.
So if there's any girls that are say going through just I mean it doesn't have to be CF, but just anything of that kind of, it affects your life. It, maybe you were bullied for it when you were younger. Like, what advice would you give them if they were in a sense of, like, I want to start going to the gym, but I'm just not sure how to start, or I'm not sure, where to look, or like, is this even good for me in a sense? Like, what advice would you give them?
I feel like a lot of the times, a lot of people are insecure and they're scared. Anxiety, especially going to a gym for the first time or like a new gym, I still get that. I'm like, I get, like, I mean, obviously I have chronic anxiety, but I'm like, at the end of the day, there's so many different people at the gym. You are not going to be pinpointed, and people are not going to be noticing that it's your first time. So, like, it's kind of something that I had to remind myself. I did get looks and stares all the time, being 5'6", 80 pounds. So I did stick out. But at the same time, it's your life, it's your decision. If you want to do something, go fucking do it. Like, it's literally your life. If you're going to sit around and be miserable and just feel sorry for yourself, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to change. If you want something, just go fucking do it. And I get it. It can be so hard and difficult. But I personally, with the amount of stuff that I went through, even though, yeah, I was still dealing with the anxiety of, like, starting out the gym or, like, literally trying anything new, I wanted something so bad. I went after it. I didn't let anything stop me. Even though it was difficult, I'm not saying it was easy, but I'm like, I can't make this my life. I don't want people to feel sorry for me. If I want something, I go fucking get it. And nothing's going to happen if you don't. You're your own person. No one can make that decision for you. And yeah, like people motivate you or like I think motivation in the gym, a lot of people say, oh, I lack motivation. It's like, no, you lack making your decisions for yourself and you think they're just going to happen. But you think about that's like a decision every single day. Like you wake up, it's like, are you going to decide to be grumpy and let some tiny little thing affect your day? Or are you going to move on from it and go out and get whatever the fuck you want and enjoy it? Because you have the choice to be miserable and sad, but you also have the decision to be happy and like, I guess motivated to go do something. You know what I mean? I'm like, I kind of was like all over the place with that, but like,
I actually thought it was great.
yeah, so
I feel like that was motivation enough. Like, I'd be in the gym.
Motivation's fake. It's so fake.
Yeah, it is.
Like, people always say I lack motivation. It's like, no, like, you're being fucking lazy. Like, you are.
Yeah, and like when you say, you know, you were recovering, coming out of your coma, and you were like, I just want to go to the gym. Yeah. That wasn't like motivation. That was literally like, I'm deciding to do this because I fucking want it, and also it made me feel better. Yep. So for me to get healthy, this is what I want to do. Yeah. That's not a sense of like, oh, I'm so fucking motivated. I just want to, that was a sense of like, and you know this makes me feel better.
You know how scary that was for my family?
Yeah.
I'm literally 5'6", 50 pounds. And I'm like, no, I want to go to the gym. They're all like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like all she's talking about is the gym. Like, yeah. And I'd only been going to the gym for 2 months before that. Wow. But it was like one of those things. I'm like, for the first time in my life, I felt better. Like, my energy level was better. Don't get me wrong, I was still sick. I was still that random girl in the gym just coughing her guts out, like, every single day. Like, it was bad. So, but, like, I'd get embarrassed to do it, but I'm like, I have headphones on, no one can hear me. I'm just coughing my guts out. I had a few times people came up to me, they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, like, I'm good. This is an average day for me, like.
You're like, turn up your music, just so you don't hear it.
You don't want to hear me fucking coughing my guts out? Yeah, just put your headphones on.
Just blast it,
Don't mind me, like, I'm good. Like, I actually had a shirt one of my CF friends made for me, like, years ago. It said, fuck off, I have CF. Like, I feel like I need another shirt like that some days. I'm like, yeah. But, yeah, so.
That's so funny.
I'm like, if I can go to the gym absolutely, like, coughing my guts out, looking like I'm dying, blue in the face, I think you can get up off your couch and go to the gym with your healthy lungs.
I'm making that a reel. That's so real. That will go viral.
No, but like, think about it. I'm like, I can't breathe. I can't even sit here. Like, at the time, I couldn't even sit on the couch without being exhausted. Exhaustion was not an excuse for me. I was like, yeah, I'm exhausted, but I'm still gonna fucking go. I'm like, I want that dream body. I want to feel good. So, even though I'm gonna cough my guts out, I can't do cardio or anything. Like, I'm gonna go lift some weights, even if they're 5 pounds.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Lift
There's
something.
a guy in the corner, like, curling hundreds, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna lift my 5 pounds. Sometimes 2.5. Like, yeah. So.
Whatever, though. Honestly. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to say or anything else that you just want to get off your chest before we end?
I don't know. I could keep yapping. So I'm like...
You're like, don't allow me to do that.
Yeah, I'm like, if you have any more questions, you can ask them, but...
I think we're good. Honestly, I feel like you covered everything, and I feel like just your story is just... I feel like I am genuinely just like... I'm happy that we were able to share that story because you said that you don't share it a lot on social media and on Instagram.
I like the pity. So I'm like...
But I love that you shared it and like just all the details and everything because I feel like maybe girls can't relate to that extent, but I feel like it's just kind of an incredible story to share. Like you were basically dying. Like that's, yeah. And now here you are on the Lifted podcast.
Yeah, don't know how I got here, but like we're here, man.
We made it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Yeah.
It was really great. I'm like, wow, I feel like I just like, I don't know, like I opened a lot. So it was kind of nice to do that actually. So.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you guys for listening. And I'll put all of her socials and everything in the description. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
See ya.